Hello and welcome to Home Studies e-learning for Advanced. Thanks for joining us. In this video, we'll take a look at Reading and Use of English Part 3, Word Formation. We'll look at what this part of the exam involves and advise you on the best way to approach this section of the exam. You'll also do some practice exercises to help you gain more experience of Part 3. Before you start, remember to print out the PDF handout of this unit so that you can easily make notes and underline any key information during the tasks. Or, if you don't have a printer, you can download it to a different device and use a highlighting tool for note-taking. So, what does Part 3 involve? In Part 3, you'll be faced with a text that contains 8 gaps, plus an extra gap which relates to an example question. Each gap represents a missing word. You'll notice that on the right side of the page, at the end of some lines, there's a stem word printed in capital letters. Each question is worth 1 mark, so there's a total of 8 marks available in Part 3. So what do you need to do in this part of the exam? Well, you need to use the stem word to form the correct word to fit in the relevant gap. It's important to remember that you can only write 1 word for each answer. And unlike Part 2 of the advanced exam, there is only 1 possible correct answer for each gap. Let's have a look at what this part of the exam tests you on. First of all, Part 3 is focused on vocabulary and word families, and it tests your ability to form words. To do well in this part of the exam, you need to have a good knowledge of prefixes, suffixes, and internal changes. So, for example, spelling changes that occur within words when they change parts of speech. The root word that you're given might have more than 1 noun or more than 1 adjective, for example, with different meanings. So it's really important that you're able to understand the context that the word is being used in and choose the word with the appropriate meaning. One of the first tasks you face when you're doing Part 3 is that you need to work out what part of speech the missing word is. When I say part of speech, I mean word classes, such as nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. Let's do a practice task now to check how familiar you are with identifying different parts of speech. Read sentences A and B and match the words highlighted in blue to one of the parts of speech listed below. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, time to check your answers. Did you get them all right? Pause the video while you check, then press play when you're ready to move on to the next task. Time for another practice activity. Complete this table with the words listed below. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, now pause the video while you check your answers, then press play when you're ready to move on. I mentioned earlier that you need to have a good knowledge of prefixes for the Part 3 task. So let's take a closer look at prefixes. Have a look at this example. There's 1 prefix in this sentence. The prefix is ex in the word ex-girlfriend. It means former, as in former girlfriend. Look at these 3 sentences. Try to identify the prefix in each sentence and explain what it means. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, now let's check the answers. As you probably know, mono means one, so monolingual is an adjective to describe a person who only speaks one language. Pre means before, and auto means by or of yourself. So an autobiography is a book about your life written by yourself. Bear in mind that at least one of the answers in the Part 3 task always requires a prefix, sometimes more than one. So be on the lookout for answers that require them. Okay, now it's time for another practice task. In this task, you need to match the prefix on the left to its meaning on the right. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, now pause the video while you check your answers. Press play when you're ready. So we've looked at prefixes. Let's consider suffixes now. Take a look at the example. The suffix highlighted in blue, al, is a common suffix used in the formation of adjectives. Some other examples are personal, topical, and logical. Now look at these 4 sentences. Try to identify the suffixes and the word class of the words in blue. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, now check your answers. So number 1, the suffix dom is a suffix used in many nouns. Other examples are wisdom, boredom, and kingdom. Number 2, the suffix ible is used almost exclusively with adjectives. Other examples are responsible, flexible, and incredible. Number 3, again, the suffix fully is used almost exclusively with adverbs. Other examples include skillfully, tactfully, and playfully. Finally, number 4, the suffix en is a suffix which is sometimes used to turn adjectives into verbs. Other examples of this are brighten or frighten. Press play when you're ready to continue on to task 4. Okay, let's try another task now. In this activity, you need to put the suffixes into the correct column according to their usual part of speech. Try to think of an example word for each one. You can use a dictionary to help you if you want. Remember, write your answers on your PDF handout. So pause the video and press play when you're ready to check the answers. Okay, so now it's time to check the answers. We'll look at the suffixes that usually denote nouns, first of all. I'll give you an example word for each one. So we have ship, for example, relationship. Shun, for example, expectation. Ment, for example, government. Ty or ity, for example, curiosity. ANCE or ENCE, for example, absence. Ist, for example, specialist. Ism, for example, racism. And ness, for example, darkness. Now let's look at the suffixes that usually denote a verb. Eyes, for example, materialize. Ate, for example, speculate. IFY, for example, identify. And EN, for example, heighten. Now let's look at the suffixes that usually denote an adjective. So, OUS or IOUS, for example, delicious. Able, for example, adorable. Ish, for example, childish. Full, for example, hateful, ickle, for example, musical, and IVE, for example, corrective. Finally, the suffixes that usually denote an adverb. ly or ILY, for example, heavily, and ALLY, for example, musically. Okay, now let's move on and think about headings. In the advanced exam, you should always look at the heading of any text if it's provided. The reason why this is so important is because it gives you information about the text and allows you to predict the possible content to come. Let's practice. Take a look at this heading. What do you think the text is going to be about? Take a minute to consider. Then go to the next slide and skim read the text quickly. Don't spend more than 2 minutes reading it. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to continue. Now skim read the text quickly to get the gist or the general meaning of it. Remember, don't spend more than about a minute reading it. Take a look at this short summary of the text. It explains the overall meaning in just a few sentences. Was your prediction something similar? Okay, so in a short while we're going to do a practice exam task using the text you just read. But before you begin, let me explain the instructions. For questions 17 to 24, you need to read the text. For each question, use the stem word in capitals at the end of the line to form a word from the same word family. There's always an example question marked question 0 to show you what you need to do. Don't waste time trying to answer this question as the answer's already given and you won't get any marks for it. When you sit the real exam, you need to write your answers clearly on the separate answer sheet in capital letters. For this practice task though, you can write your answers on the PDF handout. Let's take a look at the example question. In this example, you have the stem word signify. As you can see, the words have cooled have been highlighted. This gives you a clue. This is a verb, so it suggests that the word in the gap will be an adverb, describing how the oceans have cooled. Do you know the answer? Pause the video for a moment while you think about it. Then press play to continue on to the answer. As I mentioned, we're looking for an adverb from the stem word signify. The adjective is significant, so to make the adverb, we simply add the suffix ly. Now let's consider exam strategy. What questions should you ask yourself when you're trying to find the answers? First of all, try to identify what part of speech is needed in the gap. Analysing the sentence around the gap will help you with this. Look at the stem word given to you on the right. What part of speech is this? Think about how you can change the stem word. Do you know any other words that are part of this word family? If you've decided that you need a noun, try to work out from the context whether it needs to be singular or plural. Think about the meaning of the whole sentence or the wider text. Are there any clues about whether the word that you're looking for is positive or negative? Also, consider whether the missing word needs a prefix. Okay, so now let's begin the practice task. On the following 8 pages, you'll find questions 17 to 24. For each question, part of the text has been highlighted in green to help you. You'll also find a useful hint at the bottom of each page. Write your answers on the PDF handout. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 18. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 19. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 20. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 21. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 22. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 23. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to move on to the next question. Question 24. Pause the video and press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, time to check your answers. Compare your answers to the correct ones below. Did you get them all right? If not, look back at the relevant question and try to work out why your answer is wrong. Okay, so now let's focus on exam strategy. You've read the question and you think you know which word should go in the gap. What do you do next? Here's a checklist to help you. Write your answer in the gap on the question paper. Then consider the following questions. Does the answer that you've written look right? Does it sound right? Does it feel right to you? Then look again at what you've written. Is it spelt correctly? Remember, you need to spell the word completely correctly to get the mark. Then check again that your answer is the right part of speech for the sentence and check whether it makes sense in context. Does it need to be negative, for example? So if after all this you're happy with your answer, now you can write your answer on the answer sheet. Alright, now we've talked about our checklist, here's another practice task for you to try. Remember to apply all of the strategies and tips that we've talked about in this video. And don't forget to go through your checklist when you think you know the answer. Pause the video while you do questions 17 and 18, then press play when you're ready to move on to the next questions. Pause the video while you do questions 19 to 21, then press play when you're ready to move on to the next questions. Pause the video while you do questions 22 to 24. Then press play when you're ready to check your answers. Okay, pause the video while you check your answers. Press play when you're ready to continue. How did you do? That brings us to the end of Reading and Use of English Part 3, Word Formation. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully you've learnt lots of strategies to help you in this part of the exam. Before I leave you, I just want to give you one final tip. Spelling matters. In this part of the exam in particular, you need to make sure that your spelling is correct. You won't get the mark if the words aren't spelt perfectly correctly. So bear this in mind, particularly when you're adding prefixes and suffixes. And think about any other spelling changes that might occur when using a different part of speech of the stem word. So thanks again, and remember to do the practice activities and quizzes in this module to consolidate the techniques that you've just learned. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video.